What's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here with episode 22 of the Shackcast. And we're going to be talking about Silent Hill, and most notably, what a new Silent Hill could be. Now, do note that I will have video assets playing in the background. No audio, but there will be video assets playing in the background. So for those of you that prefer a visual experience of the Shackcast, you can catch us on YouTube. If you're listening, you can find us over at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So enjoy the listening experience there, wherever you want to be. We thank you for your support. So what are we going to talk about? I'm going to discuss the new reveals of what's been shown at the Silent Hill transmission by Konami. They had some new announcements recently. I want to go over some of that, and then let's just talk about like what we think all of this could be and what we think the future of the franchise. Well, so let's get started with the big one, which I do have assets playing here that will be looping each of the Silent Hill announcements that we've seen here. And so you can see video footage of each one. Silent Hill 2 Remake currently on screen. This is being made by Bloober Team. There will be no loading screens. There is some sort of a dodge mechanic being worked into the combat. They are working closely with the original creators, Akira Yamaoka and Masahiro Ito, to ensure that they're keeping the unique Silent Hill feel intact. Now, Akira Yamaoka being the sound, the key to everything, whether it's the sounds that are in the world of some of those first few Silent Hill games, along with the music, that direction. Masahiro Ito more being in monster design, but also he does have a lot of control over more than just that, I think is what he's kind of hinted at. That he's not really just creating creepy monsters, he kind of has some agency beyond that. So, let's read up a little bit on, because I want to do a little bit of a deep dive on the Silent Hill 2 remake. There was a blog post on PlayStation.com that I think was really informative. This is from Konami producer Motoi Okamoto, and if I butcher any of these names, I apologize. I'm just going to read a lot of it, just straight out of the box for you here. And if you do notice that the Shackcast is sounding a little different this time, that will be because I have a new microphone that I'm running both on stream and for the Shackcast here. This is the Shure SM7B, premier mic for all podcasters, live streamers, all that stuff. And I'm having a great time with it. But don't worry, if you are in love with the Audio-Technica AT2035 that I've been using for most of my career in live streaming and content creation, it will still be used in vital applications, but that was a condenser mic, and this is a dynamic mic, which can really get crisp, clean, controlled sound, and we don't have to worry about picking up any sort of elements outside of that. So, back to our article here. When it came to reviving Silent Hill, what we saw as most important was to do so together with those who loved the series. Silent Hill had been, if you will, silent for many years. Yet, even during that silence, we had been receiving proposals for new entries and remakes. This is truly a franchise that is beloved by so many fans. Bloober Team was one such team, with the most passionate of proposals. They're a studio who truly loves and specializes in horror games. If they don't mention it in this article, I would say they've done Layers of Fear, they've done The Medium, now they're doing the Silent Hill 2 remake, they did the Blair Witch game that came out a couple of years ago, and I really loved the Blair Witch game. Like, chills down my spine running through the woods being chased by whatever those wicker demon things are. And then along with the medium, it really captured the fixed camera angles, the puzzle mechanics, and just kind of the unique vibe of a Silent Hill game. So I could tell that they were very passionate through what they were creating. And Layers of Fear is pretty dope. It's often considered a bit of a walking simulator, but it still tells a good story. It's still got some good scares, even if it feels like, you know, you're relatively safe because you're on, you know, you're just walking around. You know, there's not really like running and hiding or combat or anything like that. So, getting back to Bloober Team, together with creators who love Silent Hill, for fans who have a special place in their heart for Silent Hill, we have decided to remake Silent Hill 2. To explain more, I'll hand it over to Mateus Lenard, creative director and lead designer at Bloober Team. The classic returns anew. Silent Hill 2 is a beloved and timeless classic. It's almost a cliche to say it out loud, but it's just so true for many of the Bloober Team members. This is also the reason why we approach working on the remake with such great care and respect for the original game. With that in mind, one of our primary goals is to preserve the atmosphere that made Silent Hill 2 so exceptional, while also modernizing many aspects of the game's overall gameplay. Now, I would mention this myself. The way I play Silent Hill 2, especially when I first get into the game, and I'm not going to spoil anything here, just so you guys are clear, just exploring that world and just walking around the initial foggy town. I do it every playthrough, and I do it like I've never been there before. I go and I look at things, and I look around confused, and I visit old spots and haunts that I'm familiar with from the numerous playthroughs I've done. But I mean, there is some sort of immersion and atmosphere and just a sense of dread that you feel when you first arrive in Silent Hill. You know something's wrong, but you can't place it because there's no any monsters, there's no weapons, there's no combat yet. It's just have this very quiet, uneasy, lurking vibe. And so that's why I think atmosphere is so important. So, that's when they mentioned that they're working closely with the original creators, Akira Yamaoka and Masahiro Ito, to ensure that they're keeping the unique Silent Hill feel intact. One of the many elements that you could spot in the reveal trailer is the adoption of an over-the-shoulder camera. So you would recognize that that's often quite similar to the Resident Evil remakes. Even Alone in the Dark is starting to go there with their remake. So, I mean, we're starting to see beloved franchises, The Sinking City, all these other games are starting to adopt that kind of style for their more modern horror games. So, they want to immerse players deeper into the game, make them feel like they are a part of the Unreal world, and deliver them a more visceral experience across the board. One change often brings another. With a new perspective, we're rebuilding the combat system and certain set pieces, among other things. Now that you see basically what James can see, we could find new ways to keep the player on edge. So, I mean, that's a good point, because with fixed camera angles, you have full control of the player's perception, of the scares, of where they're hiding, what they're seeing, what they're doing. You know, you can make sure that they don't miss things. But when the player has full control of the camera, I could be looking the exact wrong direction and I could miss a scare. So you have to guide the player and deliver those scares in a way that you're making sure that you're pulling the player's attention to what you're about to scare them with without letting them know that you're about to scare them, right? So, I mean, you do things like that with light, with sound and stuff to lure players in a direction you want them to investigate. And then when they investigate, obviously their back's not going to be turned. They're going to see whatever you're presenting towards them. So, very interesting. 21 years have passed since the release of Silent Hill 2 for the PlayStation 2, also for Xbox and PC, by the way. And the big leap in technology allows us to be even closer, at least in some aspects, to how Team Silent would have desired their game to be back in 2001. So what's important is, I think the developers of The Last of Us Part 1, which was the recent remake here, they said this about their 2013 game, The Last of Us. They said this remake here, it's not just us slapping a new coat of paint on this. This is us taking the limitations that we had at the time on the PS3 and making the best thing we could. But now we're on PlayStation 5 and potentially PC at some point. And they said, now that we're on this platform and we have this type of hardware and this type of lighting technology and these kind of character models and stuff like that, we can truly make the game that we wanted to make back in 2013, but without all the technological restrictions of the time. So it's really cool that Silent Hill 2, that Dead Space, even Alone in the Dark is getting a new reboot. Even seeing Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes getting this second fresh life. And you're just able to accomplish so much with that because of the technology that we have today. So the fact that they're saying that is pretty bold, I would say. At least in some aspects to how Team Silent would have desired their game to be back in 2001. Thanks to state-of-the-art motion capture sessions, we can deliver the best facial expressions in the series' history and show a wide range of emotions even before a character speaks a single word. And I should note that as they are showing this on the blog, they're showing James' face as he looks in the mirror, which we see in the trailer. Built with Unreal Engine 5. We are updating Silent Hill 2 experience comprehensively. With the possibilities of the Unreal Engine 5, we're bringing the foggy, sinister town to life in ways that were impossible up to this point. The game will delight PlayStation 5 players visually, auditorily, and sensorily. And I should note that the Silent Hill 2 remake is also coming to PC. It will be a year exclusive, and then I believe it should be available to Xbox and potentially other platforms. Some of the Unreal Engine 5 features that really shine are Lumen and Nanite. With them, we're raising the graphics to new, highly detailed and realistic levels while turning the game's signature nerve-wracking atmosphere to 11. Okay? Lumen is a fully dynamic global illumination solution that immediately reacts to scene and light changes. It means that the light interacts with the environment realistically, just like in the real world. The whole game environment is lit more naturally this way. The nanite technology, on the other hand, is an amazing tool for level designers. With it, they can create incredibly detailed worlds and more realistic environments that look and feel almost lifelike. So now you're probably wondering what the new PS5 features are. It's not only graphics, though. A lot of Silent Hill's disturbing atmosphere comes from music and sound design. Thanks to the PS5's 3D audio capabilities, players will be able to determine the exact direction where the sound is coming from. The W-Wise sound engine creates a realistic and believable soundscape that helps players feel like they are truly inside the game. Of course, they are not forgetting about the DualSense controller. We've already shown with our previous title, The Medium, that we can get pretty creative when it comes to haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. We're bringing even more new ideas to Silent Hill 2, but let's keep it a surprise for now. The one thing I'll mention about haptic feedback and adaptive triggers is that the haptic feedback for a lot of the PlayStation 5 games have allowed you to feel slighter vibrations across the controller. So not just vibrations hitting your controller at 10. Okay, it's not just the heaviest vibration all the time like we're used to in older generations. And you can have something just a soft vibration at a 1. So maybe it's raindrops landing on James's shoulder or something. Okay? Maybe it's something more drastic, like a metal pipe hitting you in the shoulder, right? So they can show these different things. And also, when you raise a gun, you can feel the weight of the weapon. And when you pull the adaptive trigger, they can make it to where when you lift the gun up to aim with the left trigger, for example, you would feel the weight of the gun of lifting it up because they up the tension on pulling that trigger. And then when you're actually pulling the trigger, the right trigger, to pull the trigger on the gun itself, they can also make that more forceful to make you feel the true pressure, the anxiety, the tension of pulling the trigger of a real weapon and firing at something, which can be horrific on its own. And I think when I was playing the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes this year on the PlayStation 5, it was an incredibly immersive experience with the PS5 DualSense controller. So we'll finish up this article here. One last great improvement I want to mention is the SSD storage technology. Super fast data streaming means players won't see any loading screens as they seamlessly explore the entirety of the Silent Hill town. Now, Silent Hill 2 didn't really have very lengthy load times at all. I mean, maybe a few seconds between certain locations and cutscenes. But it goes a long way when you're playing games like God of War, when you're playing games like Control, when you're playing the new Dead Space remake, potentially Callisto Protocol, and now when you're playing the Silent Hill 2 remake, they go to great lengths to sneak in ways that the game loads. Even the Resident Evil remakes, 2 and 3, that they did, there's very little time that you're not spent immersed in the action. So I think that's going to make it seem like you're watching a movie, or like you're really in this world, like you're really living this experience, which is pretty dope. We're confident that we can do it justice to this cult classic and breathe new life into its gameplay. The end result will be a Silent Hill game that looks and sounds better than anything that has come before it. While the development is not over yet, we already can't wait for fans to experience it. A new chapter begins. The revival of Silent Hill series does not end with Silent Hill 2. We have announced not just the remake of a past classic, but also multiple titles with all new stories. Creation of new games is what truly brings the franchise back. We will create new games for the series together with those who were part of Silent Hill, but also with creators who love the franchise. We will expand our partnerships and broaden the world of Silent Hill together, with teams that love the series from around the globe. Above all, together with longtime Silent Hill fans and new fans to be, we will raise the Silent Hill series to new heights. So that's what I wanted to showcase about Silent Hill 2. There was really a lot of information. Now, after Silent Hill 2, they revealed one called Silent Hill Townfall. This is a co-production with Annapurna Interactive. You might know them from Stray, and multiple BAFTA award-winning no-code studios, which they are known for Stories Untold and Observer. So Townfall, which the trailer is currently rotating through. I couldn't have timed it better than this on accident here. But it appears to be a bit of a narrative adventure. All they've shown here is this portable TV, and it's sort of cycling horrific images and just sort of, giving you a vague idea of what this game might be about. So it's obviously probably in pretty early development there. Or not observer, observation, I should know, which literally one of my favorite horror games that I've played in the past few years. It was a woman on a space station, and you do not control the character. You control the security cameras on the space station, and you try to guide her and help her as she tries to repair different things, figure out what's going on the space station. It's a really dope game, one of my favorites. So I'm really excited to see whatever Townfall is going to be. very cool. Now, beyond that, we have Silent Hill Ascension, which is going to be an interactive live experience. Now, they did mention that this is, and it is on screen right now as well, they did mention that this is going to be something by J.J. Abrams' studio, that they'll be handling this. So I guess what I don't understand about this one is it a game? Is it a movie? Is it like Netflix's interactive shows? They had the Black Mirror episode that was sort of interactive. You know, they had things where you can control choices while watching a TV show, so you sort of have some agency here. Yeah, Bad Robot was J.J. Abrams' company there. So it'll be really interesting to see how they handle that. After that, you have Return to Silent Hill, which is going to be a movie based on Silent Hill 2, which I'm actually pretty hyped for. I'm a big fan of Silent Hill 2. The movies, I have to say, I think the first one I enjoyed a lot. Christoph Gans is going to be back on this. And so there's been Silent Hill, there's been Silent Hill Revelation, which I believe had some 3D features. And it was loosely based on Silent Hill 3. And so this one here being based on Silent Hill 2, I think they understand the weight here of what they're doing. I mean, you're literally tampering with the greatest, most beloved of the Silent Hill series. So if you mess this up, it's pretty grave. But if they do it right, it could be a real turning point. But the thing about the original Silent Hill movie, and you see it on screen right now, is that they really captured the visual style, the camera angles, the fog, the ash. They really took some liberties, but they also pulled it together with some really good references to the original Silent Hill in 1999. So I wonder who they're going to pick as James and Mary, but I think this could be really vital, depending on what actors they go for. So let me know in the comments down below if you have any sort of fan casting that you would pick. So consider that you would need James, Mary, and Maria. You would need Angela. You would need Eddie. You would need to cast all these characters as well as Laura, right? So think about that and get back to me with some of your suggestions, and I'll also leave some of mine in chat as well. I'm going to skip ahead here on our video sources here and get to our next one, which is Silent Hill F. This is a completely new game, new story set in 1960s Japan, featuring a beautiful yet horrifying world, written by Ryukishi 07, famed for Japanese visual novels dealing with murder mysteries, psychological and supernatural horror, and it's being developed by Neobards Entertainment. Now, if you haven't heard of Neobards, I might have some good or bad news for you, depending on whether you enjoy some of the projects they've been working on. You have Resident Evil Resistance, which was sort of the asymmetrical, almost DVD-like experience that came with the Resident Evil 3 remake. I actually played this and had a good amount of fun with it. But I found the enemies like Mr. X and Nemesis and whatever to be incredibly unbalanced and unfair, playing as a survivor. They also worked on Resident Evil Reverse, Devil May Cry HD collection, which Reverse is the big deathmatch thing where it has like every Resident Evil hero and villain, you know, duking it out in a third-person deathmatch or whatever. Devil May Cry HD collection, Onimusha Warlords, Resident Evil Origins collection for Switch, which I believe is Resident Evil 0 and 1 when it was ported to Switch. They also did, and this is pretty dope coming from me, this is pretty dope that Neobards did this, but they did character skill design and implementation for Marvel's Avengers, which I know they nailed the hell out of that because it's so good. They were also contracted to work on Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, and they also did some work on Resident Evil 7. So, pretty dope, pretty interesting, and you can see the footage rolling here in the background. I'm really pleased with the announcements. I'm excited about everything they've revealed here, and I can't wait to get my hands, especially on the Silent Hill 2 remake. One second here. I guess I unlooped the playlist. That's my bad. Let's see. So now I want to talk about like what do I think is, beyond this, and what do I think from what I've seen of these games, these movies, and all this kind of stuff. Like, what is it? How's it going to be? Is it just going to be another character with amnesia running around the fog? Well, I certainly hope not. But looking first here at Silent Hill F, we're seeing that they're not really going for the fog. We haven't seen the fog. We're seeing like this weird tentacle stuff. We're seeing like fungus. We're seeing things grow. We're seeing another female protagonist here. You're seeing sort of flowery devices here coming out. The Torii Gate, you're seeing sort of a 1960s Japanese schoolgirl, roaming streets of Japan here somewhere. And you're just seeing a different kind of horror here. And I think that's a plus for the franchise. And it's not that we can't have the fog in a nice city, and not that every Silent Hill needs to be based in America. I'm actually pretty excited to see one over in Japan, because I think that might be the best way to just like truly capture this Japanese horror. So I can't wait to dive in to whatever this character is, whatever's going on, whatever trauma she may have, as that often goes with Silent Hill, pretty hand in hand. And I wonder what the F means, because it does look like the musical sign for Forte. And so I wonder, is she a musician? Is there musical implications here? Is there something to do with that? I don't know. So getting back to the Silent Hill 2 remake, I'm very excited about it. It's more of what I enjoy and what I desire, and it's a great starting place to just welcome people to the franchise and let them see the best of what Silent Hill has to offer before potentially dishing out a new course. And honestly, this is the best thing they could have done, which is really just bring a multitude of people in to just do an anthology series of like, well, here's James's adventure. Here's this player's adventure. Here's the girl in Silent Hill F. This is going to be her adventure. Okay? So we're going to have all these different journeys, all these different experiences, different interpretations from different studios, different types of gameplay, because no one has the same design philosophy. One of these could be a first-person exploration game. One could be, fixed camera angles. Another could be more of a third-person, over-the-shoulder type thing. It could be anything. It could be a narrative game akin to Life is Strange, but with horror elements. They could do so much with what they've announced today. And so, yeah, maybe the franchise does need to evolve beyond the Team Silent games, beyond what even the American titles were able to lend to the series. And I'll bring this up. Silent Hill Downpour is, along with Silent Hill 2, one of my favorite entries in the series. And they truly used rain as well as fog to create a sense of dread, a sense of horror. And basically, every time it rained, it meant that enemies were about. So it was a new mechanic. It was a downpour. So if it was raining really heavy, you were going to be assaulted by a barrage of enemies from any angle. You wouldn't know. And if it was just kind of light, that just kind of meant that there's just going to be a couple lurking around, and you'll deal with them. And it had a lot of interesting enemies and enemy designs, but most notably, the town had lore. It had side quests. You could go into multiple buildings, and each building was like an anthology story. It wasn't necessarily part of Murphy's main story, and I'm not spoiling anything here, but you would go into each of these buildings, and in each building would have its own theme of horror, its own little story that you would figure out. You would learn about the people that lived there, maybe, or something that happened to them. Pretty interesting stuff. And you would experience weird things, time loops, or a certain monster might be in there, or some sort of story would be told there that would just kind of fill you with horror or dread, fear. And so exploring that world was really interesting. And I think that's something that we can do now with technology and open world games and stuff. It doesn't necessarily need to be an open world RPG grind fest, but you can take what they kind of wanted to do with Silent Hill 2, which was have you explore the whole town, but you could add indoor environments, you could add extra places and extra side stories that maybe they add to James's story, but maybe they also just kind of fill in the gaps of the story of, well, what is Silent Hill? Why is it here? What are Eddie and Angela's experiences in this world? And if it's a different character, obviously it's like you can flesh so many different things out. You can play with so many different themes of horror. And you could just fill in the world and create more lore and immerse us more in this world, which is what I've always wanted from Silent Hill. And that's why I felt Downpour really delivered on that. So for me, I'm really excited about the future of Silent Hill. I hope after listening to this episode, you share my passion and you have your own thoughts and desires. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of everything we've discussed today. We've talked about all the new reveals that have been shown. I've also shared some of my perspective and what I enjoy about Silent Hill and what I see for the future of the series. And I'm very excited, and I can't wait to get my hands on Silent Hill and have it on the channel here and just guide a whole new generation of Silent Hill fans to have access to these games, which, by the way, are like games that cost hundreds of dollars to buy the original copies. The HD collection being sort of a shoddy, thrown together, thing that I'll vouch for it. If that's the only way you can play it. But this might be the new recommendation is, hey, play the Silent Hill 2 on PS5 and PC or whatever. Cool. So I want to thank you for watching. Leave us a review if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Very much appreciate some good reviews of the podcast here. Let me know what you enjoy about our show and which episodes you have found have connected with you the most. I take all advice, and if you want to leave a recommendation for future topics, leave them in the comments down below. I'm also on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can watch us on video on YouTube, listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm very thankful to have you all here. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.